I was looking at my calendar this morning, and I had that sinking feeling. I think we all get it.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
make these huge New Year's resolutions. You set these massive goals. I'm going to transform my life. And then a few months in, nothing.
Or you go hard for 3 days, you burn out completely, and you feel like a total failure.
Exactly. It feels like real change has to be this huge, earth-shattering event,
Yeah.
a breakthrough.
The whole lightning bolt theory of success, right?
Right.
We're all just waiting for that one moment of massive inspiration to strike.
We think we need a quantum leap, but the source material we're looking at today suggests we have the entire physics of success completely backward.
We absolutely do. We are diving into James Clear's Atomic Habits. And honestly, just calling it a productivity book sort of misses the point.
It's more than that.
It really is. It's
Well,
like a manual for human psychology. And its whole premise just dismantles that overnight success myth you were talking about.
It even starts with the title, right? Atomic Habits. When I first heard it, I thought atomic, like an atomic bomb, this huge explosion.
That's where everybody's mind goes first. But Clear is using atomic in the scientific sense.
The smallest possible unit of a thing.
Exactly, something tiny. But, and this is the whole key, it's the fundamental building block of a much larger system. The argument isn't about one big action, it's about hundreds and hundreds of tiny ones.
So our mission for this deep dive is to basically prove that the quantum leap is a lie, that success is actually just math. Kind of boring daily math.
It is math, but it's a kind of math that really plays tricks on your brain.
Okay, let's get into that. The concept of marginal gains. This is pretty much the foundation of the whole philosophy.
Right. And the classic story here, the one he uses to frame everything, is about the British cycling team.
Okay.
For about 100 years, they were just mediocre, actually worse than mediocre. There's this story that one of the big bike manufacturers refused to sell them equipment.
Seriously. Why?
They didn't want their brand associated with the team's failures. I mean, they had won one single gold medal in almost a century.
Wow. Okay, so they were the laughingstock of the cycling world.
Pretty much. But then in 2003, they bring in this guy, a performance director named Dave Brailsford. And his whole strategy wasn't, let's work 10 times harder.
No reinventing the wheel.
No, he had this belief in the aggregation of marginal gains. His whole idea was, what if we just improve everything by 1%?
So what does that even look like? What's a 1% improvement on a bike?
Well, there's the obvious stuff. They redesigned the bike seats to be a little more comfortable. They rubbed alcohol on the tires for better grip.
Standard stuff.
But then they went deeper, way deeper. They tested different massage gels to see which one helped muscles recover fastest. They hired a surgeon to teach the riders the right way to wash their hands.
Wait, washing hands. How is that relevant to winning a bike race?
It seems like it isn't, right? In isolation, a 1% improvement in hand washing doesn't win you the Tour de France.
Right.
But it reduces your chance of getting a cold by, say, 1%. Then they painted the inside of the team truck white.
Why white?
So they could spot tiny specks of dust that might get into the gears and degrade the performance of the bikes. They even figured out which pillow led to the best night's sleep for each athlete.
When you stack all those tiny 1% gains together.
The math just goes crazy.
So what were the results?
5 years later, at the Beijing Olympics, they won 60% of the available gold medals. 4 years after that, in London, they set 9 Olympic records. They went from a joke to a dynasty, all from tiny gains.
Okay, that story is amazing. It's really inspiring. But here's where I have to push back a bit, because I think a lot of people listening will feel this.
Go for it.
1% sounds great when you're an Olympic team with a huge budget. But for me, if I get 1% better at riding or do one extra push-up, I'm not going to see it. It feels pointless.
And that feeling right there is exactly why most people quit. You just hit on the most dangerous part of building a new habit. Clear calls it the plateau of latent potential.
That sounds ominous.
It does. But it's really just a fancy way of talking about the lag in results. Think of it like an ice cube.
Okay.
You've got an ice cube in a room that's 25 degrees. You want to melt it. So you start heating the room. 26 degrees, nothing happens. 27. Still a solid ice cube. You feel like you're wasting all this energy.
I'm sweating, I'm putting in all this work, and the ice cube is just sitting there mocking me.
Exactly. But then you hit 32 degrees, and suddenly it starts to melt. Now, was it that 1 degree jump from 31 to 32 that did all the work?
No, of course not. It was all the degrees before it, all the work I did when I saw nothing happening.
Yes, but we get discouraged at 29 degrees because we don't see the results. We expect progress to be linear. But real progress with compounding is exponential. The results are always backloaded.
So an overnight success is just someone who finally hit 32 degrees. We never saw them heating the room for years.
You nailed it. And the math backs this up. If you get 1% better every single day for a year, you end up 37 times better by the end.
37 times. That can't be right.
It's the power of compounding. 1.01 to the power of 365. The curve looks flat for ages, and then it just shoots up.
But there's a warning here too, isn't there?
Oh, yeah. It cuts both ways. If you get 1% worse every day, you skip your workout, you eat junk food, you don't just stay the same. You trend down almost to zero.
So your habits are either compounding for you or against you.
Yeah.
There's no neutral ground.
It's relentless.
Okay, so we have the math. We need to survive what he calls the valley of disappointment.
Right.
But knowing the math doesn't make it easier to get out of bed at 5 a.m. This is where the source material pivots from math to psychology, which I think is where it gets really powerful. The idea of identity.
This is the core shift. Most of us, when we want to change, we focus on the outcome. I want to lose 20 pounds, or I want to write a novel.
That seems logical, though. You need a goal.
You do, but focusing only on the outcome doesn't change the underlying beliefs that created your current behavior. Qrius says we need to focus on identity-based habits. The question isn't what you want to achieve, it's who you wish to become.
Can you give me a clear example of what that sounds like?
Okay, sure. Imagine two people are trying to quit smoking. Someone offers them a cigarette. Person A says, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit."
Sounds reasonable enough.
It does. But what are they really saying? They're saying, I am a smoker who is trying to be something I'm not. They are fighting their own identity. It's an act of deprivation.
Okay, so what does person B say?
Person B says, "No thanks, I'm not a smoker."
That's a subtle shift.
But it's massive. Person B's identity has already changed. It's no longer part of who they are. It's not a struggle, it's just a simple fact.
So real change is actually identity change. Because if I'm just trying to be a runner, I can quit. But if I'm a runner, well, running is just what runners do.
Exactly. Because any behavior that's inconsistent with your self-image won't last. You can force yourself to the gym, but if deep down you believe, I'm a lazy person, you'll always snap back to that identity.
But that feels a bit abstract. Just change who you are. How do you actually do that? This is where that metaphor from the book comes in, the idea of casting a vote.
It's a brilliant framing because it lowers the stakes so much. He says every single action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become.
So I don't need to suddenly become a healthy person overnight.
No.
I just need to cast one vote for it.
Exactly. You go to the gym for 20 minutes, that's a vote for I'm an athlete. You write one paragraph, that's a vote for I'm a writer. You make your bed in the morning, that's a vote for I'm an organized person.
And just like a real election, you don't need every single vote to win.
You just need a majority. If you skip the gym one day, that's fine. You cast a vote for lazy, the election isn't over. Just make sure you cast more votes for healthy over the course of the week.
That is so liberating. It completely reframes failure. It's not a lost election, it's just one lost vote.
And your habits become the evidence that proves your identity to yourself. Once you have enough evidence, you don't need willpower anymore. It's just who you are.
Okay, let's get under the hood then. We have the theory. Compounding math plus identity. How do we actually build the habits? The source material breaks it down into a very specific mechanical loop.
Right. This is the engineering part. If you want to change your behavior, you have to understand the code it runs on, and it's a 4-step cycle. Cue, craving, response, and reward.
Let's use a real one, a bad habit, because those are always easier to see. How about mindlessly scrolling on my phone at night?
Perfect example. Okay, so step 1 is the cue, the trigger. It might be your phone buzzing, or it could just be the context. Lying in bed with the lights out, that's a cue.
Then comes the craving. And I don't actually crave my phone.
No, you crave a change in your state. You crave relief from boredom or maybe a hit of social connection. The craving is the motivation to act.
And the response is the action itself.
You pick up the phone, unlock it, open an app.
And finally, the reward. I see a funny video, I get that little dopamine hit, and the craving is satisfied.
And your brain logs that. It says, hey, next time you're in bed and you feel bored, that's the cue. Do this action and you'll get this reward. The loop is now complete.
It carves out a neurological pathway, a habit loop.
And after enough repetitions, it's completely automatic. You don't even think about it.
So Qrius takes this loop and builds his 4 laws of behavior change on top of it. These are like levers you can pull to build a good habit or break a bad one.
Exactly. To build a good habit, you make the cue obvious, the craving attractive, the response easy, and the reward satisfying.
Well, let's focus on that first one, make it obvious. This seems to be all about designing your environment.
It might be the most important factor, even more than motivation. We think we're in control, but our environment has a huge influence. If you want to learn guitar, but your guitar is, in its case, in the back of a closet.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Literally, the cue is invisible. You have to make it obvious. Put the guitar on a stand right in the middle of your living room.
And for bad habits, you just do the opposite.
You make it invisible. You want to stop eating cookies. Don't rely on willpower. Just don't buy them. Or hide them on a high shelf in an opaque container. Add friction to even seeing the cue.
Okay, what about the third law? Make it easy. This feels like it goes against everything we're taught about no pain, no gain.
We have this obsession with heroics. We think if we aren't suffering, the effort doesn't count. But our brains are wired to follow the law of least effort. We conserve energy.
So you have to reduce the friction.
You have to reduce the friction to start. He has this 2-minute rule. Scale every new habit down so it takes less than 2 minutes to do.
So read a book every day becomes read one page.
And go for a 3-mile run becomes put on my running shoes.
That feels like cheating. Reading one page isn't really learning anything.
But it masters the art of showing up. You can't improve a habit that doesn't exist. You have to standardize before you can optimize. If you just master putting on your shoes every day, eventually the running will happen.
It's about getting over that initial hurdle of starting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Make it so easy you can't say no.
Okay, I want to jump to what I think is the most maybe controversial idea in the whole book. We live in a world that worships goals. But Clear basically says, forget about goals.
He doesn't say forget them completely, but he puts them in a firm second place. He argues that systems are infinitely more powerful than goals.
Let's define that difference.
A goal is the result you want to achieve, the finish line. A system is the process that leads to those results, the track you run on.
And his argument is we spend all our time staring at the finish line and no time building the track.
Right, and there are big problems with being goal-oriented. The first is what he calls the winners and losers paradox.
Oh, I love this part. It's so simple when you hear it.
Every single athlete at the Olympics has the same goal. They all want to win the gold medal.
Right. Nobody shows up aiming for bronze.
So if both the winners and the losers have the exact same goal, then the goal itself cannot be the thing that separates them.
That's undeniable. The goal is a constant.
So it must be the system. The gold medalist had a better system for training, for recovery, for nutrition. The goal only set the direction. The system is what actually made the progress.
And there's also the problem of what happens after you achieve a goal.
Mm-hmm.
Like someone who trains for a marathon, they cross the finish line, get the medal, and then they don't run again for a year.
Because the goal was the only thing motivating them. Once it's achieved, the motivation is gone. A system is about continuous improvement. You don't just want to run a marathon, you want to be a runner. That's a system.
It all comes back to that quote from the book. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems.
It's probably the most famous line for a reason. It's a massive reality check. You can have the biggest dreams in the world, but if your daily system, your atomic habits are broken, you will always revert to that baseline. The system always wins.
It's a little scary, but it's also incredibly empowering. It means I don't have to worry about the future. I just have to worry about my system for today.
It brings your focus to the only thing you actually control, which is the present moment, the next action, the next vote.
So to wrap all this up, we started with this idea that we need some massive breakthrough. But it turns out the breakthrough is a total myth.
It is. It's really about the math of 1% improvements and having the patience to wait for that compound interest to kick in.
It's about surviving that valley of disappointment, knowing the ice cube is going to melt eventually.
And it's about shifting your identity, not asking, what do I want, but who do I want to be? And then casting votes for that person with every small action.
We looked at the mechanics cue, craving, response, reward, and how to design our environment to make the good habits easy and the bad ones hard.
And finally, we landed on the idea that systems are what deliver progress, not goals.
You know, I think the reason this stuff resonates so much is that it stops making you feel bad about being human. It accepts that we're wired for least effort, and it gives you a way to work with that, not against it.
It gives you permission to start small, to be atomic.
And small isn't weak. Small is powerful as long as it's consistent.
Exactly.
So Here's a final thought to leave everyone with. We spend so much time curating our goals, writing them down, making vision boards.
Which feels productive but doesn't actually do anything.
Right. So what if you did this? What if you completely ignored your goals for the next 6 months? You don't even look at them. But you focused every single day on just improving your system by 1%. Would you still get the results?
I'd argue you'd probably get even better results.
So maybe the real question is, does the goal even matter if your system is perfect? Something to think about. Thanks for diving in with us.
Keep casting those votes.